What the... What did you do that for? Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Tonight I'm going to look at the Star Wars Black Series Han Solo and Tauntaun. It's another Beast figure. So far we only have Jabba and, well, I say Beast, you know, deluxe set. We have Jabba and the speeder bike. So it's kind of cool to get a different one. Excited. Tauntaun was, you know, one of my biggies when I was a kid. Used to stuff Luke up in the body of them. The box is standard Black Series packaging, very minimal. Just a little information on the back, which is really just a recap of Han Solo getting stuck out, his Tauntaun dying, and him cutting it open. But he does look really cool in the packaging. It's, you know, everything's there. There's not a lot of empty space. A little bit up here, maybe down here. But the package looks full. For me, this looks worth, what is it, $39.99? I won't know until I get them open, so let's do that real quick. Okay, and there you go, out of the package. Straight out of the package, I have a few quibbles, but nothing much. It's Han with a Tauntaun. Pretty cool, a pretty standard Black Series figures that we've, you know, had so far. The thing that gets me, the tail, it takes up a lot of horizontal space, but also with Han in the saddle, he takes up a lot of vertical space too. So it's a tall, together, you know what I mean? It's gonna, you know, overlook your whole collection. Just to give an idea of how tall it is altogether, there's Han. I've had to put my camera up a little bit to get Han to fit on the screen. There's the A New Hope Han. He sits under Tauntaun's chin, so you can get an idea of, it's about twice the size of Han altogether. Putting Han in the saddle was kind of a trick, but it's kind of nifty because he has the back foot pegs, and he also has, I'm going to hate myself for doing this, but he also has front toe foot pegs, and then the saddle, I don't ride, so whatever this is, it has a peg inside of it to hold his feet in stirrups, right? Am I right on that? And they're kind of a pain to get in there, but once you get him in there, he seems pretty secure. And I'm a liar. This is the problem I had earlier when I was messing around with him. It's hard. This one doesn't really stay pegged in. It just kind of sits in there. So you got to kind of extend his foot down to keep some pressure on it. But he still stays up there on the saddle. Let's take a look at Han first. Pretty standard Black Series figure, as I said. I'll get into articulation in a minute, but right off the bat, he doesn't have wrists. I don't know if that was a choice. I don't know why they omitted the wrist. It seems like with the glove right there, it would look, you know, it wouldn't be that much of a transition, but yeah, they're gone. I don't know if this is going to be a standard thing or just for this deluxe, because, you know, the Tauntaun, we'll also get to that here in a minute, doesn't have as much articulation as I think it could have. So I guess being packed together, they had to cut something, and for some reason it was the wrists. Otherwise, he has all the other standard articulation. In the package too, he doesn't come with the goggles up on his hat. It's kind of a bear to get on there like that. The hood comes off. It's got a split right here. So you just kind of pry up and out. And most of the time, well, that's the first time I've been able to do that. See, the goggles are loose. Now you can get it up over his eyes, like so, but it doesn't really look good. You have it hanging down there, but it doesn't work with the hood. I feel like the goggles are kind of low, so him actually wearing them doesn't really work for me. And trying to put the hood on, when you're trying to slip the hood on, it's kind of tight, so it's going to push the goggles down. I'm not even going to show it to you because I'm just going to tell you it's kind of frustrating. If you put him on top of his visor, kind of pry it down, as long as you take the hood, let's straighten it up. As long as you take the hood and put it on a continuously down motion, the goggles stay on. Force his face through, force the hood down, and there you go. The hood seems kind of small because there's still going to be a gap right here. You can't quite force it down enough to sit on his shoulders, on both sides at least, at the same time. If you take the hood off, and the goggles off, and then put the hood on, it does a little better. Gets down a little bit more, but you're still going to see gap. There's no way around it. It kind of sits up high. But it does look good from the front, and it's not terribly bad. Like I said, if you display, wherever you display him, you can adjust the hood to close the gap a little bit. Articulation-wise, he comes, the head is on the hinge with a ball. Not a lot of side to side. Back, forward, swivel around. Hinge and swivel shoulders. It swivels out, but not as high as, usual. I think that's just to retain the jacket look. And then they swivel all the way around. Hinge and swivel elbow. It goes a little past 90. Swivels out. The top of the glove is a swivel. Like I mentioned, no wrist. He's got the lower kind of floating ball hip. Not hip, it's a waist. And it also, crunches. And he can crunch really well for, it just being that. And back, side. So he gets all kinds of movement there. The belt and the skirt, well, the lower jacket, are both separate pieces. You can rotate that around, and then you can bring the belt around, although it's around his leg right here. Now, the lower jacket is pretty soft, so you can get his legs forward, no problem. It's on a hinge and swivel. Swivels, or hinges out, swivels forward. Then he's got a rotation swivel at the top of the thigh. Double knees. Pretty good. Ankles. Down. Up. And then the forward facing peg for ankle rocker. Accessories himself, Han comes with, the hood. And the goggles. This, I want to say he looked through them in the movie, scouting around, but there's no way he can hold this in his hands, and it looks it doesn't really go on there with the visor like that. Getting it over his shoulder, you gotta kind of stretch it out. The strap is a little bit short, and it looks just kind of big and clunky, and then it holds the hood up here. So I won't be using that probably. The belt is a separate piece, but it's not the same belt as our first Han. It's at a different angle. It's a different brown. It's a different sculpt altogether. And he comes with a blaster. It's a different blaster than the one that came with the first Han. It's got the scope set off to the side. It's just a different version of his original blaster. Another cool thing is you can get his trigger finger in the trigger guard, so he actually holds the gun like he's supposed to. And it looks like a pretty good size. Now, for some reason, I don't know if it's the feet are a little bit curved, but he likes to fall back. He's got kind of a rock to him, and I cannot get him flat-footed. So he stands. You can get him there, but he's kind of hard. Here he is with I keep putting up there a New Hope Han. You can see that the Hoth Han is just slightly taller. The shoulders sit a little bit higher. But I don't know, as big and bulky as his uniform is here, wearing on Hoth, I'm okay with that. Plus, again, I got him with the Tauntaun. He's going to be riding the Tauntaun. Here he is beside the Tauntaun. Again, you can see how tall the Tauntaun actually is. Now, going with just the Tauntaun, he's surprisingly light. It's a hollow plastic. There's nothing in the tail. It's pretty much hollow all the way across. The head is on a swivel, and then it hinges. You can see the hinge right there. Hinges back pretty well, and then hinges forward so he can stand more straight up and down, which, yeah, I'll get to that. The arms are just on a swivel, forward and back, or well, up and down, really. There's no out. Same with the back legs. There's no out to it, just a swivel. It's also a hollow, almost a softer feeling plastic than the actual body. And then the ankles, the feet are cool. I guess I've never paid attention to Tauntaun feet before. He's got a back spike. But these are on a hinge and swivel too. You can swivel back and forth, and you can hinge forward. That foot goes really far forward. This one, not quite as much, but still pretty good. But at the end of the day, articulation is kind of lacking. His head can hinge back like he's more in a run, but you're not going to get his legs to go in any kind of running, crouching position and stay balanced. Whichever direction you take him, he's going to fall that direction. You get him to one point, and that's where he's going to stand. You can find it, but it's mostly in a neutral standing position. So I feel like there's not a lot of posing possibilities, but I guess the articulation is good for stabilizing him when you do find the spot you want. Paint app wise, it's just a straight gray plastic. There's no shading. I don't know if the plastic is gray or white, because there is some white on the belly here, which, by the way, there's no opening feature. This is just hard plastic. It's not going to open, not going to split. I think the prototype we saw at San Diego did have a opening belly. It didn't make it through. Now the paint apps on the face are pretty good. There's some different colors for the nose, the lips, inside the mouth, the teeth, the tusks. Actually, horns, whatever these are, did actually get some shading. So I'm glad to see that. There's some bone protrusions on the top of his skull that are a different color. The inside of the ears got some pink, and then the saddle got a lot of paint colors. Not a lot of shading, but different colors for the trim of the saddle, the little gadgets here, the cartridge, the stirrup shield, the bedroll, and then there's another. I want to say this had a big antenna sticking out of it in the movie. Again, it's been a long time. Every time I buy a Star Wars figure, I think I need to go watch that movie again, but I haven't made it to it yet. Even the studs right here got some silver, so they could have easily went with just brown for that. I'm glad to see that they at least a little extra effort there. Would I've given up the paint for like knee joints or a tail joint, or even some swing out action, some ball joint up here in the shoulders? Yeah, kinda, but I don't know how actiony I was going to get with the Tauntaun. So the lack of articulation kind of disappoints me, but at the same time, it is kind of cool overall. He even has paws down on the bottom of his feet, as just kind of sculpted there. Flat would have been a little bit better. I think it would have been more stable being flat, but it is kind of nice to have that, them go that extra mile and put pads on the bottom of his feet. Overall, I think the set is worth it. I'm happy to have a Tauntaun in the collection. I'm happy to see them taking the main characters into a different movie. I'll be good with like a Leia in her Hoth gear. I'd rather see Bespin, or even the classic white from A New Hope. I think up next is Luke and Wampa. I can't wait to see that set. I may take a paintbrush to these. Han's pants are a little bit white. I'm not even going to get into the blue jacket, brown jacket controversy. Part of me, after the speeder bike going down and Jabba going down in price so much on clearance, it makes me kind of want to wait. But at the same time, I don't. At $40, the price of two figures, and one of them's twice as tall as a regular figure, even though articulation is lacking, I think I'm good with the price. So if you like the review, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the Fwoosh.